Rachel, Rob Pelinka went out there in free agency, and he did his thing. He went out there and got free agents like the Lakers lost and didn't win the championship. When you look at him getting Dennis Schroeder, Montrezl Harrell, who we stole from the Clippers, who was the sixth man of the year, and then you go out there and get Wes Matthews for 3.6, one of the best two-way players in the game today. Not the best, but one of the best. And then you go and land Marcus Gasol, a veteran big. That was crucial.
Yeah, the answer has to be both these teams are awesome. They're my favorites to go 1 and 2 in the West. But look, the Lakers just won a championship and they got better. So the answer has to be Lakers. Lakers. Dennis Schroeder adds an ingredient they just didn't have last year. A water bug point guard who can create his own shot. I think he'll do a great job running pick and roll with LeBron and AD. And Marc Gasol is a perfect fit with their starting five if they decide to start him. Same level of interior defense as Dwight and JaVale, maybe even a little better, except he can shoot threes and space the floor for Anthony Davis. So all of a sudden when Anthony Davis is posting up, the lane is clear. Anthony Davis is pick and roll, diving to the rim. The lane is clear. And oh, by the way, if you decide to put your center on Anthony Davis and try to hide your power forward on Marc Gasol, he can take that guy down to the weight room. You throw in Montrezl Harrell, maybe keep him in a six-man, kind of roll off the bench. I think the Lakers had an amazing offseason. Clippers are doing great, but when you win the championship, you get the benefit of the doubt.
It really does seem like a long time ago, guys, right? That the narrative out there was, gee, I don't know if players want to play with LeBron. Kyrie left. Kevin Durant didn't want to come. Kawhi Leonard didn't want to come to Lakers and play with him. Guess what? Guys seem to be wanting to play on that Lakers team. And such an interesting thing happened with the Lakers last year, and I wanted to ask you guys about it because last summer, I said once they built that roster, gee, I'm worried about their perimeter defense. I was very concerned about where that was going to come from. And if you look at the numbers of where this Lakers roster, their core players were the previous season, look at their defensive numbers from last season, you can see where that concern was. But then look at this past season. Every single guy got better. I mean, much better. And I would say this is in some ways the Frank Vogel effect. This is in some ways LeBron getting serious on defense the way he hadn't in the previous few years. But it has sort of made me wonder, how do we account for this thing when looking at rosters to say, some of these guys might be so much better consistently 1 through 8 there than they were the previous season? Zach, when you see those numbers, what do you do when you evaluate rosters?
Well, a lot of those numbers, those are team defense or individual defensive ratings. Those are really heavily dependent on your team context. So when you added Anthony Davis and you added engaged LeBron James and you retool the team around them, everybody's defensive numbers are going to get better. So I don't put a huge amount of stock into those numbers. I just think the Lakers got better talent, including a defensive player of the year level player in Anthony Davis, a coach who's going to stress defense from day one. And they came out with the mindset of, we're building our team defense and out. And when you do all those things together, yeah, everybody's numbers are going to improve. I don't think, and everyone bought in. Guys who maybe hadn't bought in as much in the past bought in. So that's what happens. And I do think they can carry that over into this season. And as you pointed out, Rachel, their perimeter depth, just as good now as it was when they won in the bubble, maybe even better.
And Zach, you hit a great point by bringing up Frank Vogel. When you look at Coach Vogel, especially when he was with the Pacers, they were always at the top defensively. So Frank Vogel brings that defensive mindset. And once he got LeBron James and Anthony Davis to buy in, then it's a ripple effect. Now you see Caldwell Pope, he's buying in on the defensive end. And then you seen Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee last year, the way that they had a defensive impact. But now you add Dennis Schroeder, who's a guy that could pick up 94 feet, who's feisty on the defensive end, who gets you extra possession, along with a guy like Montrezl Harrell. Look, we praise Montrezl Harrell about his offensive package and his 19 points a game, but he's great at taking charges. He's an underrated shot blocker. And then we all know locked in Marc Gasol, what he brings to the table, along with Wesley Matthews locking in on the wing position at $3.6 million. Hey, it looks like pure gold to me for the Los Angeles Lakers.
And on the Clippers side, Serge Ibaka, I think, makes up for a lot of losses there. But, Zach, do you think they're done? Because a true floor general, it feels like they still need to fill out on that roster?
Well, there just aren't a lot of those players left unless they want to re-sign Reggie Jackson. It's getting to be slim pickings. But to answer your question, no, I don't think they're done. And I don't necessarily think there's a move that happens now or maybe even before the season. But I don't think the Clippers, as they stand right now, first of all, they have to. This is going to be the team that is playing for the title or playing in the playoffs after the trade deadline. I think they'll tweak it a little bit. But Ibaka was a hugely important signing for them.
I agree. Look, the Clippers dropped the ball. I thought they would be more aggressive this offseason. I thought that they would try to go out there and really pursue Rajon Rondo because that's what they're missing. They're missing that floor general. They're missing that veteran leader to be on the ball club, to be that guy who controls the locker room outside of basketball. But they didn't go out there and they didn't be aggressive. To me right now, the Clippers are losing, especially the L.A. battle, but they're losing in the free agency battle tremendously. Serge Ibaka was a good pickup, but they needed to add more pieces, and they're not getting it done right now.
Well, they got time before the trade deadline, still months away. We'll see how they tweak and come up with a roster that's going to take them into the playoffs. I do want to move on to Gordon Hayward because he and the Hornets agreed to a 4-year, $120 million deal over the weekend, guys. A lot of folks.
Up $195 million. Wrap your brain around that one. He's coming off a postseason where he averaged over 36 per. Jason Tatum, also 5-year max with Boston, also worth up to $195 million. First-time All-Star in 2020, and the Lakers agreed to a deal with Marc Gasol, the defending champs, really reworking that front court. They also traded JaVale McGee to the Cavs to clear up some space for the Gasol signing. Nice and busy times right here in the middle of football season for NBA insider Brian Windhorst. So can we start with Giannis, our 2-time reigning NBA MVP, because he enters the final season of his contract, as we all know, but he could sign the Supermax, 5 years, $228 million, to remain with the Bucks. What sort of ripple effect could that have, Wendy, on the rest of the league going forward?
Well, Hannah, it's really everything. To be honest with you, we just had the craziest week of NBA transactions in league history, but nothing is more important than waiting on this Giannis extension. If he extends, the Bucks are the gigantic winners of this offseason. If he does not extend, we're going to see a mad rush and dash to prepare for his possible free agency next summer. And if you look at moves that teams have made across the league, whether it's the Miami Heat signing 4 players to 1-year contracts, whether it's the Toronto Raptors tailoring the contracts of their players so that they have more room next year, or the Dallas Mavericks making trades to clear off guaranteed money, those teams believe there's a chance that Giannis may not sign it. And so the whole league, in one way or another, is sitting on the edge of their seats waiting for that decision.
Okay, so let's really play this thing forward now. Let's talk about Anthony Davis, because the whole world expects him to return to the Lakers. So how potentially could what Giannis is doing or ends up doing impact the type of contract that AD ends up getting?
Yeah, it's unusual for AD to delay his re-signing for this long. And one of the things he could be watching is what Giannis does. If Giannis elects to sign the extension, then we could see AD potentially sign for longer. But if Giannis sets himself up to be a free agent next year, I know it seems hard for them to believe that the Lakers could do it, but that might spur Anthony Davis to only sign a 1-year contract with a player option, which is the kind of deal that LeBron James is on, to leave flexibility in Lakers payroll. So there's a lot of people watching Giannis Antetokounmpo right now.
I know that as you were busy getting all this information, you probably had one eye on the football screen, as we all did yesterday, and stood up when we heard Derek Carr's audible in the Chiefs-Raiders game last night. Let's take a listen.
For max deal, the reigning 2-time MVP would have until December 21st to agree to it or become an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. Another big man, Anthony Davis, probably isn't going anywhere, but he's also not in a rush to re-up with the champion Lakers. AD plans to wait through at least Thanksgiving before agreeing to a new contract. And Goran Dragic announcing on Twitter in the last 30 minutes that he's staying in Miami. According to Bobby Marks, it's a 2-year deal for the 34-year-old to stay with the Heat. He averaged 19 points during the Heat playoff run to the NBA Finals. See?
As Woj reported on Tuesday and Wednesday, this happened. Gordon Hayward has opted out of his $34.2 million option, and he is now the biggest name to hit the free agent market. No longer now a Boston Celtic, and Gordon has a couple of options, 3 options. He can re-sign with the Celtics on a long-term deal, Or he can sign with one of the two teams with significant cap space. That's the Knicks or the Hawks. The third option is he can agree to a sign and trade with a team that does not have enough cap space to sign him. We've heard a lot about the Indiana Pacers as a possibility, as Gordon Hayward is from that area. Let's bring in Tim Legler, Richard Jefferson for more on this one. Legs, let me start with you, because first and foremost, $34.2 million. Gordon Hayward says, no, I'm going to leave a team that's been one of the tops in the East for the last couple of years. You think this was the right decision by Gordon Hayward, given what he's been through, not healthy the last couple of years in particular?
Well, let's see what he's got in mind, Sage, because I know I physically can't even make my mouth formulate the words, I don't want $34 million. I can't physically do that. So he must have something in mind that he wants. That's a head scratcher for me. I assumed he would take that $34 million. He's on a team that potentially can get to the finals or win a championship. He might not like his role as much as fourth fiddle in Boston, but he's still got $34 million coming and then hit free agency next summer. There's clearly something there that he doesn't like about that situation. And he thinks maybe he's got more to offer and it may be a more pronounced role with a different team. So I think sign and trade sounds like it may be the route that this is going. Indiana's coming up a lot in this, and the rumors about what Boston's going to get